With the WSL season just weeks away, today we're going to be looking at one young player every WSL club you need to watch out for this season. So without further ado, Harry, do you want to get us started with Arsenal?
Yeah, Arsenal was a tough one because there's obviously a lot of young talent coming through at Arsenal. We've seen some of that young talent leave, some of that young talent be loaned out or stay and play amongst the youth ranks. But a player that has really started to come onto the scene in the senior team, and a player that I think you need to look out for this season is Katie Reid, only 18 years old, has featured a little bit last season and kind of was one of the first players from that Arsenal you set up to come in last season and to get some first team minutes, but a player that for me has looked really comfortable when she's come in, and that is why I put her on this list, because I think this season is her year to come in as that rotation with Emily Fox in that right back position. She can also cover at centre half, but I think she can offer Arsenal a lot. They want to fight on all fronts. If they want to compete in competitions, we know how crucial it is where if you want to win titles, if you want to go out and well, try and win as many trophies as possible, you need to rotate that starting 11. You need to keep the squad fit. And I think that having Reid as an option across the back line is very, very impressive. And as I said, she looked very good when she featured last season, did end up making 7 appearances, 1 start and 135 minutes played in the league. And there were a couple of Champions League and FA Cup minutes in there as well. But a player that in very small cameos last season looked really comfortable, looked very calm on the ball, and did exactly what Arsenal need. I think that as that Fox backup, as that Fox rotation, she can do a really, really good job. And I hope that she will get more minutes this season, because I look at it as the biggest thing with a youngster, the biggest thing that I look for is that they need to be comfortable. They need to have that kind of leadership element, that maturity. We see a lot of players come through, and although they look quite good, they look quite raw, can be a little bit erratic, a little bit error prone. But with Reid, she's so calm, so good at under pressure, that I think she suits what Arsenal want to do, and I think she can come into the main team setup this season and start a lot of games. If you want to rotate Emily Fox and keep her for the big games, especially towards the end of the season, I'm looking at Katie Reid as playing those League Cup matches, playing those FA Cup matches, playing the weaker sides in the league, and giving Fox a chance to rest, because I don't think she really got one, Emily Fox, last season. So for Reid, I think there's a great opportunity that she can come in this year and play a big part in that Arsenal backline.
Yeah, I think she's set up really nicely to play in this Arsenal side, because playing as that right back, oftentimes because of how aggressively McKay push up at left back, she becomes a centre back anyway by tucking into the back line. So I think it's a role that suits her really well. Arsenal don't have another backup in that position, so it feels natural that she's going to get a lot of minutes. I think the only question mark is whether she could play centre back. Obviously, she played at centre back for all of youth level, but it does seem that at senior level she's been preferred to play right back. But I think she could do either role very well. Let's move on then to Aston Villa next, and they've got a very exciting 18-year-old left back named Rachel Maltby. Now, Maltby started to get minutes at the end of last season, getting 47 minutes towards the end of the campaign. It was only really dead rubber minutes, but it was still really important to see her starting to get opportunities at a club like Aston Villa. And I think if you look at the Villa backline, yes, they've got Paula Thomas, and so starting minutes aren't going to be readily available. And Noel Moritz is capable of covering there. But I think Giving Moritz is going to be asked to cover at right back, and I think we'll see more of Noel Moritz at centre back this season, like we did at the most recent Euros. I think there is an opportunity for Maltby to start to get more minutes in this Aston Villa side. Now, perhaps alone be a better move, but I think if she can start to become a backup to Thomas this season, she's exactly what Aston Villa want. A player who's very comfortable on the ball, very comfortable carrying the ball. We've seen her proven at England under 17 and under 16 level, where she's been capped numerous times. Hasn't yet made a start for the under 19 side, but was in the squad for the most recent Euros. And so that's really positive to see that she's rated in the England youth setup. I think we'll see her start to get more minutes with the under-19s through the next season, and then potentially moving into the under-23. So there's a lot to be excited about for Rachel Maltby. The question will be now, can she convince Arroyo that she's good enough for starting minutes, or any minutes, more than sort of the last 2015? But I think when you're looking at those League Cup fixtures, which unfortunately there isn't much data on, but I believe she was involved last season. But if we're looking at it this season, she should be starting, or at least getting a good amount of minutes in those games. So I think she's got an opportunity. She's got to take the minutes that she gets this season and use them to prove to Arroyo why she deserves to be that backup left back. But I think with them lacking a player there, with the fact that Mas Pacheco's gone, they haven't gone and signed another left back, I think there's opportunity, and I think that it's clear that Aston Villa rate Rachel Maltby very highly. So I think she's one to watch for this season.
Yeah, I think that Maltby is one of those where, as you say, a lot of potential and still so young that I think that she's got to take the minutes she's got this season, but it's all about for her as well, building in that foreground. But if she can get involved in the squad this season, I think she can mightily impress, and she should be in a great stead for the future. Moving on to Brighton then, and a player that I think has looked very impressive, but is also a new addition into the WSL this season and into Brighton is Carla Camacho, a player who has featured a little bit for Real Madrid, and again, he's in that similar bracket of a player that has had some minutes at in one of the higher leagues, a top league in Spain, has featured a lot for Real Madrid last season in the league. 242 minutes, which isn't bad for a youngster at all. But I think that with the step up to the WSL, this presents a very good opportunity for Camacho to come in and really prove herself. And yes, I think it is a bit of a gamble from Brighton to sign her overall, but a player that she is 20 now, so it's not like they've gone out and picked a completely raw talent who's just come onto the scene. Camacho is a youngster that has come through Real Madrid, and the last couple of seasons has started to get into the first team, and now presented an opportunity at Brighton that means that hopefully with a few more starting minutes she can really come through and shine. Is a very, very good player, and I think that especially in this Brighton attack, we saw it last season how it presented great opportunities to certain players to come in. Obviously, Agumang came out on loan and really impressed in that front line. We saw brilliant numbers delivered by the likes of Haley and Kirby and Paris. So what we've seen across last season was that whoever played in that Brighton front line seemed to have a really good season, seemed to put up some really good numbers. And I think that if Camacho can do the same, if she can come into this Brighton front three and really deliver some good numbers, and that'd be great to see. And I think that Brighton's a good atmosphere to go in, because it's not like she's jumped to one of the best sides in the WSL, so she will have a little bit of time to settle into the league. But also, it's an environment where, as I said, last season we saw numerous players deliver, which means that there's not a sole reliance or an expectation that Camacho comes in and scores all of the goals for Brighton, or she's the only creative spark in the team, because Brighton have got plenty of players that can deliver. So I think that Camacho here is a really good player to watch, because she will be afforded the luxury of being able to ease herself in and get comfortable to league. But I think once she's up and running, once she's got a few starts and a few minutes under her belt, she's a very explosive player that could cause a lot of problems in the WSL. And as part of that very high pressing, high energy, constantly running after teams, that Brighton press, I think she could be a real danger player for the Seagulls next season. And if Vidicic uses her correctly, I really hope that this move from Madrid to Brighton is going to pay off for her. And I think a player that got to watch out for. A bit of an unknown. It's exactly what they did with Haley. They also unlocked Agumang. Brighton are really good at taking these players from other leagues or other teams, giving them an opportunity to shine. And I think with Camacho, this is the perfect club for her to show what she's really about.
Yeah, I think she's really impressed at Spain youth level. The other thing I'll say about her is I think there is a really clear path to the first team, because I think Seike will be used as more of a centre forward this season, with them not having any other senior strikers right now. I think obviously you've got Haley's going to play out wide, you've got Frank Kirby, and you've got Kafaji covering those sort of two attacking midfield spots that they have at Brighton. So, but you look at those positions, and Kirby you think is only a few years off retirement now, and we expect to see her start to tail off over the next few years. So you think Camacho can get minutes over her over the next season or two. And then you've got Kafaji who's on loan. So I think there's a real clear route to the first team for Camacho. And if she can improve this season and impress, the next season she'll be a nailed-on starter and one of the best. So we'll see what happens. But I think there's a lot to be excited about for Camacho at Brighton. And let's move on to Chelsea then. Chelsea have a lot of options to go for. I could have looked at some of their new recruits, specifically Villa Berman. I think he's going to have a really good season. I think the most impressive product of the Chelsea Academy is Lola Brown, but she's gone out on loan to Crystal Palace. Again, though, I think she's going to have an excellent season at Palace. So some really good players already. But the one I'm going to touch on is Lexi Potter. So Lexi Potter is a 19-year-old defensive midfielder, and Potter spent all of last season on loan at Crystal Palace. And obviously, since they were in the WSL, she racked up 1,500 WSL minutes, almost 1,600 by the end of the campaign. So a really impressive season for Potter. I think while everything else capitulated around her at Palace last year, we saw her still be a figure of steely resolve in defensive midfield. And I think if you look at the Chelsea setup now, Yes, there's Kira Walsh, but Kira Walsh playing that as sort of a single pivot player. You've got Jean-Francois who could play there, but could also play as the other midfielder. I think there's an opportunity for Potter to become third choice, to become second choice, and start to compete for minutes. And with Chelsea involved in so many competitions this season, I think there's an opportunity for Lexi Potter to really start to ingrain herself in the first team. And we've already seen this in the opening pre-season fixture against Ajax. Potter started in that defensive midfield position. It's a role that she's really familiar with. She played it for Crystal Palace. So I think just being able to do the same thing at Chelsea, yes, it's a higher pressure environment, but she's not going to be starting the Champions League quarterfinals or anything this season. But you would expect her to start to get some WSL minutes against the weaker sides in the league. You'd expect her to play in the FA Cup, play in the League Cup once Chelsea get to the quarterfinal stage. So there's going to be opportunities for minutes this season, I think, for Potter. And I think she'd be a really good understudy for Kira Walsh, someone who is much more of a natural defensive midfielder than someone like a Jean-Francois. I think Jean-Francois, given her ball-carrying abilities, is a bit wasted as that lone defensive midfielder. But I think Lexi Potter, with her range of passing, with her ability to scan the field, her tackling, her ability to cut passing lanes, I think she's exactly what Chelsea want us to learn under Kira Walsh. It's sort of the perfect environment for her to develop in.
Yeah, I think Potter is one of those where if she can use her experience last season and take those WSL minutes, she can really shine at Chelsea and become a big part of that squad. Moving on to Everton then, and I think you're probably the youngest player on this list. I've gone for Izzy Hobson to come in and shine this season. Only 17-year-old, still only 17 years old, and again, this one is a difficult one because although I know she's already come onto the scene a little bit and has featured quite, has probably got a lot of minutes under her belt across last season, obviously made her debut in 23-24, but I think it's still 17. There's an opportunity now for Hobson after getting a loan move to Sheffield United, for 6 months from January to this summer. I think there's an opportunity here for now come back into this Everton setup and really make a name for herself. Now, I feel like this is it's a tough one because she obviously came in, played 8 matches to start last season between September and January, and then got loaned out. And it felt like a bit of a weird one because she came in and I thought she did very, very well in an Everton defence that, to be honest, in the first half of that season, they just kept chopping and changing their centre-backs and couldn't really settle on a strong pairing. But I think that Hobson came in, brought her up through the youth ranks, gave her a senior start, and I think she looked the most comfortable of anyone. And yes, she did get loaned out because the likes of Martina Fernandez came in and all sorts, and yes, they've signed a lot of people over the summer, but I still think there is an opportunity for Hobson to come back into this Everton setup and really make a name for herself as one of those starting centre halves. And I think she's a great talent. The fact that she got given her senior debut at 16 speaks volumes as to how good she really is. It was a League Cup fixture across that 24-25 campaign. But I think that a player that, for me, could really look comfortable, but also look right at home in a partnership with, say, someone like Fernandez. And I think that would be a good opportunity. Yes, it would be 2 relatively young centre-halves, but Martina Fernandez is a player that obviously came through at Barcelona and is an extremely good centre-half. I think for Hobson to partner her, that would do Hobson the world of good. And I think Hobson's better than a loan move. Obviously, yes, she's still only 17, so a lot of people might say she should go back out on loan. But for me, after playing 8 WSL games, dropping back down to the Championship last season was a little bit of a step back. So I think this season, Brian Donaldson has got to back her and got to bring her back into setup because she is good enough for me to play in the WSL. And yes, Everton have kicked on. They're looking to do bigger things, but I think Hobson can go with them, a centre-half that is very, very good. She's very much a modern centre-half. I think that is, being so young, I think that she does lack maybe the traditional elements where we talk about that aerial, dominance and that strength and that, the strong tackles. But in terms of on-the-ball stuff, I think Hobson's brilliant and is very good in possession, and especially Everton, who will sit deep and will be under a lot of pressure. I think Hobson can withstand that. So for me, Hobson has to come back into the Everton setup this year because she is good enough to start in the WSL now.
Yeah, I think it speaks volumes about how level-headed that Hobson and Fernandez look, that I wouldn't look at that centre-back partnership and be concerned. I think it's a huge opportunity for her this season with Everton losing Justine Van Havermet, who's been such a key part of their defence and midfield at different times in her career. So Everton look a little bit weak in the back line at the moment. I don't think they can afford to loan Izzy Hobson out. I also think Izzy Hobson deserves WSL minutes. And where else are they going to loan her to?
Yeah.
There's no club where she's going to get a better opportunity. So I think she's one that Everton will be keen to nurture. You say that she may be the youngest player on this list. Well, I'm going to raise you one who I think may just be younger, and that is Leicester City's Nelly Lass. Nelly Lass came through at 16 last season, made 12 WSL appearances, only one start, but clocked up 272 minutes. And I think we saw in those opportunities that she did get a player who looks incredibly assured of herself at such a young age. She looked comfortable in possession, strong in the tackle. She's exactly what you want from a modern fullback. Someone who's able to go both ways, offer that defensive support, but also someone who can carry the ball forwards. We've seen her operate at both fullback and central midfield across England youth levels, so that versatility is something that Leicester could definitely play into, especially with the fact they don't have the biggest squad in the league. At the moment, they've only got 5 senior defenders on their books, 4 senior midfielders. So having someone like Nelly Lass who can cover those multiple positions, especially when there are still major injuries to players like Ruby Mace, is going to be really important. So I think Nelly Lass will have a bigger impact this season than we saw her have last season. She's still only 17 years old, but I think she's going to get opportunities this year. She's the only backup that they've got to Asmita. They don't have another left back on the books. That's why she got as many minutes as she did last season. So I think this season, though, Leicester will be a bit more comfortable than they were last season in some games. I think that Lass will get opportunities at both left back and at central midfield, and I think she's a player who's ready for those opportunities. She's very comfortable in possession, a very strong tackler, strong player in general, given that she's rather slight. I think she's able to use her body well. She's able to be very aggressive, and we've seen at youth level, we've seen now at senior level in glimpses how she's a player who looks incredibly competent, incredibly comfortable. And I think it's going to be a real shame that England's, or not a real shame actually, it's a great thing to have, but England's biggest problem has been that left back position. And now, with Nelly Lass and Rachel Maltby, they're going to have this huge fight for who's actually going to get to start in this side. But I definitely think that Lass's versatility, Lass's flexibility, the fact that she is such a competent player at such a young age only goes to show her strengths. And I think at Leicester this season, she'll definitely get opportunities playing as that understudy to Asmita.
Yeah, the fact that Lass looks very, very comfortable and coming into a Leicester side that was struggling, I think it's the most difficult thing to do for a youngster to impress in a side that don't play well. It speaks volumes about how good they could be. And moving on to a youngster that I thought did quite well for Liverpool, even when they were struggling, I've gone for Hannah Silcock, a player that didn't feature incredibly much last year until the back end and was one of the players that benefited alongside Zara Shaw to the massive amount of injuries that Liverpool faced last season. And I think that a player that when she got the opportunity, Silcock did really shine. 5 matches played, 190 minutes in the league, but I remember that she covered a lot of the League Cup as well because Liverpool were struggling for numbers so much. A player that featured at both centre half and defensive midfield for Liverpool last season, and I think that again that versatility, we spoke with Lass and other players, that versatility as a youngster is a massive tool because it means you're going to get more opportunities to feature in different roles because you can play in more than one position. So I think Silcock's a player that can really come in and be a part of Gareth Taylor's Liverpool side. They are a little bit light on defenders, and yes, they've got enough really, but for me, in terms of defensive quality, very light because based on last season, they did struggle with centre half. So Silcock, an opportunity could impress there, where if you get a bad run of form for the other defenders that did struggle last season, Silcock could definitely come in and play as one of those centre halves. She has just signed a new contract, which I think again speaks volumes about the fact that she will be involved in the first team this season. And it's now it feels like she's crossing that bridge from being a youth player with opportunities to coming in and really being a senior player, especially at 20 years old. I feel like that is the point where you turn from being an academy prospect who gets glimpses to shine to a player that, a squad player that is involved in the senior squad, but a player that for me is good enough to play for Liverpool and can help balance the load. And because that was their biggest problem. That's why Liverpool picked up injuries last season, was because it was the same 11 players trying to play every single game and forcing players to play when they weren't fully fit. So I think that Silcock will help Liverpool manage to balance the minutes a bit, cover those League Cup games, get involved in the WSL as well, but a player that looks very comfortable. And I think it's kind of gives you a little bit more of the opposite of Hobson, where I think that on the ball she's okay, but in terms of those physical traits, she's very, very strong, great in the tackle, and I mean, talk about being having that aerial dominance, extreme, very, very good in the air, very tall, exactly what I think Matt Beard would have liked from a centre half more than Gareth Taylor. But someone, I think she can still definitely play a part in this Liverpool squad. But a player that impressed me in limited minutes last season, that I really think could come in this year and be a big part of that Liverpool backline.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought there was a bit of surprise when her contract was renewed from Liverpool fans, which I don't understand. I think she was so good last season, and given that Gemma Bonner, this will likely be her last season. They've just lost Neve Fahey as well. They're a little bit light on central defenders at the moment, and they're a little bit light in defence midfield as well, with Nagano their only fit senior option at the moment. So I definitely think we'll see opportunities for Hannah Silcock this season. The other player that I think deserves a shout out is Zara Shaw. If it wasn't for her nasty injury that she picked up towards the back end of last campaign, I think we'd be talking about her as someone who could have a real impact for Liverpool this season. But alas, she's out injured. And then, of course, they've also just signed McLean from Rangers, so I think is a player who will definitely be one to look out for and nurture over this season. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I think Silcock is a great shout there. Let's move on then to London City Lionesses. And this one was quite difficult because they don't really have loads of young players because they're a relatively new side. We haven't seen many players come through the academy. But what they have done very well is sign players from other academies. And this one comes from the Arsenal Academy, and it's Freya Godfrey. Now, we saw Godfrey play for London City Lionesses last season. She came in on loan in January, and in the back half of the championship campaign, she was able to play in 8 games and actually started all of the last 7. She started to put up some really good numbers, and her combination with the striker Isabel Goodwin was really strong, and we saw that then continue into England under-23 action when they had some international friendlies, and that's really good to see them building that connection. But she's a 20-year-old winger who I think is someone to really look out for this season. London City don't have another winger on that side, so I think we'll see Godfrey start to get more and more minutes throughout this season. She's on a permanent deal through to 2028, which is one of the longest contracts I've seen in the women's game, and it's only 3 years, but I think it shows the belief that London City have in her, the fact that she can come in and provide an impact from the off, the fact that she'll be able to link up really effectively with Isabel Goodwin, who I think they'll be keen to give opportunities to in this league, and then maybe bring in some of their other options if she isn't firing. But I think for the start of the season, Godfrey and Goodwin will be given the nod, and I'll be very intrigued to see whether they can step up their performances from the Championship into the WSL. She's got the opportunity as well to really stick one to her former side Arsenal, who were happy to let her leave, which makes sense given the quality of wingers that they've got and the fact that they've already got Vivian Leah. So even amongst youth players, her path was blocked by someone 3 years younger than her. But there was always a really positive feeling about Godfrey from Arsenal. There was this view that she would come into the first team and shine. It never quite worked out for her, but she's at London City now, which is a really exciting project. And I think she'll have an opportunity to really flourish in London City Lionesses' side. I mean, if there's ever a more experienced side and a group of players to learn from, it's incredible. She shares a dressing room with some of the biggest names to play the game, and that's incredible experience to learn from and to nurture within that environment. So I think she's in a great place. I think she'll be pushing for a starting role throughout this season. So I'm really excited to see her play, and I hope she can step that level up from the Championship into the WSL, and maybe even surprise Arsenal on the opening day.
Maybe so, and I'll tell you what, I think it'd be great if Beth Mead went there with her as well, and as a
blocked
mentor.
her path again.
Yeah, stopped her coming through and killed anything. But yeah, I think that London City, with a good coach, a good team, Godfrey's got a great stage there to shine and show everyone all that potential that we've been talking about for the last couple of years. Moving on to Man City, and well, a player that has is a player that we've been going on about for the last couple of years and really came through last season, but for me can do even better this season. I've gone for Lily Murphy, and yes, she did play a lot of minutes last season, but Murphy for me still has a lot of potential to unlock and can be a phenomenal player. Still only 19 years old, can play anywhere across the front three, prefers that left hand side, but is quite versatile across that front line. And she did come in last season, and again, like I mentioned with Silcock earlier, a player that really took advantage of City's injury woes. Played 11 matches, 365 minutes played in the WSL, and for the Champions League, she played 5 matches, 214 minutes. So you're looking you're looking at 579 minutes across those two competitions. For an 18, 19-year-old to be playing that many minutes, it speaks volumes of A, how City had no players left because they were all injured, but also B, how good she is, and the fact that City trusted her to play that many minutes, because they could have shuffled things around. They had other options, but they chose to give the opportunity to Murphy. And I think a player that, for me, did really well when players were missing, but could do even better when she's surrounded by those players. And again, I mentioned this a little bit earlier, how it's really good when a youngster looks good in a rotated team or in a team that aren't playing very well. And I feel for Murphy, because obviously she came into City last season when they were really struggling, and it was difficult for her. She did all right. She did, pick up a couple of contributions here and there, but it's really difficult to come into a side that are struggling and perform. And I would love to see Murphy's talent showcased when she's linking up with City's best players, because if you put Murphy in a front three with Shaw and Caroline, and suddenly I think that Murphy will look a much better player. That's football. Every player looks better when they play with better players, but I'd love to see Murphy get the chance this season to link up with some of the best players that City haven't. That's no offence to the players that she played with last season. Of course, they were good, but there is a bit of a difference between playing, with other, when Murphy started last season, she was starting with, some of the team were youngsters that she'd also come through with. So I think it'd be really nice this season to see her get those kind of minutes with the more senior players, with the best players in the world, and a player that I'd like to see more contributions from. I thought she got a lot of minutes and looked really sharp, but she has a lot of potential, Lily Murphy. And I think this season, if she could add contributions to her game, then she could be a very, very dangerous player, rotating with Lauren Hemp on that left-hand side, even if, whether it's a 3 or a 4 back under Jeglerts. I think that I really hope Jeglerts will give her an opportunity to really flourish, because again, same thing I said about Liverpool. City's biggest problem was that for the start of the season, they kept playing the same 11 and didn't rotate. How do you keep Lauren Hemp fit? You rotate her with Lily Murphy. You give Murphy the opportunity to start in competitions, and not just the cups, but I think she's good enough to start in the league. She's good enough to start in the Champions League. So keep those minutes ticking over for her, and bring those minutes. I think by the benefit of playing Murphy for City is that you bring the minutes for Hemp and Shaw and co down, which seems like a negative, but it would keep them fit. It would keep them more fresh. So for me, it's an absolute no-brainer that Lily Murphy comes in this season, and 100% watch out for her. She's torn it up at youth level, looked brilliant when she came into the starting 11, looked really comfortable last season. If she can add contributions to her game this season, then I think she's a player that could make a real difference for Man City this campaign.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you look at Andre Eglerts coming in, and it's a blessing, because he loves developing young talents. We've seen that throughout his career. He's got a proven track record of taking young players and giving them first team opportunities. So I think if you're someone like Grace Pryor, if you're someone like Lily Murphy, you're looking at that, licking your lips really, because you're going to get opportunities. I think they're both players in positions where they're going to get chances. At centre-back, City are rather light, and Rebecca Knack is expected to miss the start of the campaign at least with an injury. So I think there'll be opportunities there for Pryor. And at left wing, well, other than Lauren Hemp, who I think they'll be really careful to manage her minutes in the early stages, there aren't any other left wingers, or natural left wingers. Obviously, Caroline could do the job there, but Caroline prefers the right hand side. You've got Virginia who prefers the right hand side, and Fowler's very, very good on both sides, but she's out injured. So I think there's a real opportunity for Murphy this season to make good again on another player's misfortune and get an opportunity in the first team. So I think when they're managing the minutes of Lauren Hemp, Lily Murphy's got to be an option on that left-hand side. So I think there's going to be chances. I think Andre Eglerts is the perfect man to give them to us. So yeah, I think it's a really exciting opportunity for the City youngster. And let's move on to Manchester United then, who don't really have a knack of bringing players through well, but Mark Skinner has got an opportunity this season with 18-year-old defence midfielder Marad Griffiths. Now, one reason to be really excited about Griffiths and an opportunity, or the chance that she could be involved this season, is she's just signed a professional contract, so there's a good chance that she will now start to be involved with the first team. And if you look at her position, defensive midfield, yes, they've just brought in Julia Zigiotti-Olmo, but if Dominique Janssen is to be pushed back to centre-back this season, that still only leaves them with Zigiotti-Olmo, Hinata Miyazawa, who's a natural defensive midfielder anyway, and Simia Wujo. So I think there's an opportunity there. I mean, they've got Lisa Nalsund as well, but I think there's an opportunity there for Mara Griffiths to push through into the first team, take an opportunity, and start to get some real minutes under her belt. So I'll be very intrigued to see if she can get minutes. She's capped now at full senior international level with Wales, and that's really exciting. I think you look at the Wales team now, just had the Euros, and there's going to be a huge buzz coming off of that. And with players like Mara Griffiths coming through, they've got to have belief that they can now use that Euros experience and push on to the next international competition, or well, the next Euros realistically. But yeah, I think Griffiths is someone who can compete for minutes in midfield, who will be really. It really depends how she performs in training, how she performs in the minutes that she gets. But if she can shine, we've seen before that Skinner will give players opportunities. I think looking at last season, that it was really unlucky for Evie Rabjon that she picked up an injury at the start of the campaign, because that meant she couldn't really get an opportunity. But it looked like she would have got minutes at right back, especially when Jade Riviere was out injured and Aoife Mannion was suspended whenever she played. So there would have been opportunities for her, and I think you look at how Toon came through, you look at how Russo came through. I think there's an opportunity for Mad Griffiths to really push through and actually maybe Mirzal will be used in her natural position once again. That could, I know, crazy thought, guys. We might see Mirzal as a winger or attacking midfielder, but yeah, I think Griffiths is going to be knocking on the door of minutes. I think United would be foolish to shut her out, and I think if she doesn't get minutes, she's going to be someone that the rest of the WSL are looking at as a really exciting player. So yeah, I'm very confident though that she will get a chance at United this season.
Yeah, I really hope, because I think that Griffiths, as you say, with that senior experience for Wales and being amongst that United camp now in that first team setup, if she gets it right in training and really gets stuck in, she's got an opportunity to show DeMarc Skinner that she should be starting in well, at least the cup minutes, especially. I mean, obviously United not featuring in the Conti Cup group stages might hurt her a little bit, but in the Champions League fixtures, that'd be a brilliant experience for her to get. But yeah, a player to definitely watch out for.
But also, if they're playing those Champions League games, she may then get chances at the weekend if they've got weaker WSL opponents. So it could also play into her hands like that, because there are more Champions League games than there are Conti Cup games. So it goes both ways, really.
Yeah, moving on to Tottenham then, I have gone for Lena Gunning Williams, a 20-year-old winger, a player that I find Gunning Williams a really weird one, because she had got 12 appearances last season, but only 137 minutes. And for me, yes, obviously she's getting on, and yes, she's getting opportunities, but 5-10 minute cameos aren't what she needs. I think she's a player that can really shine. I think a very dangerous player, and I think that, yes, a couple of years ago when she first come through, I thought brilliant. Very explosive player, very dynamic, very quick, but a little bit raw. But I feel as she's got older, last couple of years, has just started to add a little bit more to her game. And for Tottenham next season, this coming season, could really kick on and be a big part. As I said, only got small cameos last season, and that Tottenham side were torrid. So whenever she came on, they were usually losing or in a difficult position. And as I said, that's a very difficult environment to come in and impress when the team are struggling. Tottenham, I mean, they didn't create anything last year, so as a winger, it's very hard to get involved in the game and have opportunities to get goal contributions. But this season, under Martin Ho, I think presents a very good opportunity for Gunning Williams to come in and really shine. I thought last season, out wide, they looked horrendous. Raso didn't really do anything. They kept putting Marta Thomas out there. Beth England played there for a little bit. Whatever happened in the wing areas, they got it wrong last year. Tottenham, Naz was really quiet. So I think with Gunning Williams, with some of those wingers leaving, hopefully with Martin Ho not putting strikers out wide, they might actually be able to do something, and Gunning Williams will get an opportunity to impress. Now, I think, again, we speak about how contracts and things can be a good sign that someone's going to get involved. Same with Gunning Williams, has just signed a new deal and has also been given the number 18, which I think for me speaks absolutely volumes about how crucial she's going to be to the squad this season. And again, we say usually when a youngster comes in and they've got a really high number, 60s, 70s kind of thing, usually means that they're going to get involved, but they're only going to get glimpses, only going to get small cameos. But taking number 18 for me now, I think that says to me that she's going to be a squad player and is going to be involved with a lot of minutes and play a big part in Martin Ho's Tottenham side. But as I said, very, very dangerous, very quick, especially. It can get down that right-hand side and cause a lot of problems for opposition fullbacks. And if she can add a little bit of end product, that would be useful, because as we've seen for Tottenham, if you put the ball in the box, Beth England will put it in the back of the net. And that's all you've got to do. So for Gunning Williams, if she can get that ball on that right-hand side, burst past her fullback and cross that ball in, there's a very good chance. I think she could see herself picking up a lot of assists this season. And hopefully, if Martin Ho gets that Tottenham side ticking, Gunning Williams could really shine. But for me, a player that, again, we've seen shine over the last couple of years and has got a lot of minutes got a lot of sub appearances under Villa last season, but didn't really do much with them. I think this season, a really good opportunity under Martin Ho to come in and really prove us, prove the quality that she's got, but also play a big part for Tottenham in hopefully transforming their fortunes this season.
Yeah, it's difficult to rationalise anything that happened at Tottenham last season, but how Gunning Williams wasn't afforded more opportunities when their front line was so poor. I mean, Martha Thomas has just signed a new contract. She didn't score a single goal in the WSL last year, and yet Gunning Williams still didn't get a chance. But I think she will this season. She's, as you say, able to play anywhere across the front line. I think predominantly we'll see her out wide, especially with how good Beth England has been, even while Tottenham weren't firing. But yeah, as I say, very exciting player. And from one forward onto another and onto West Ham, it's Princess Ada Meloyi. Now, I'm really excited to see Ada Meloyi because she was on loan at Charlton last season. It didn't really work out. For the first half of last season, she was there. She was able to play 13 games, struggled really to impress. But I think what we saw was a lot of raw attributes, that running in behind, that physicality, but wasn't able to put the finishing touch on it and get any goals in that side. And that was a bit of a disappointment. But she did come back and she looked rather sharp in 73 minutes across 6 appearances for West Ham at the back half of last season. So I think she's someone that'll start to bed into the first team a little bit more. 19 years old, likes to play as the striker. And I think when you look at this West Ham squad, with the way that Rico Ueki's been moved to play out wide and Vivian Asai, they've only really got Shakira Martinez through the middle. So I think we'll start to see Ada Meloyi used through the middle a lot more next season. She looked really good at the under-19 Euros, an England side who weren't very good. She still was able to score a goal in that competition, so I think that showed her class. But yeah, I think with Ada Meloyi, it's very much going to be a case of, can she impress in training? Can she then make that step up to the WSL? Would a loan move to the WSL 2 be better for her this season? Possibly, but I think even if she did get a move like that, she could really impress in the right environment. It just didn't work for her at Charlton. But yeah, definitely someone who I think who could be a big part of West Ham this season. Well, we've already seen her involved in a lot of the media content, which I think is a really good sign that she's going to be involved and that she clicks with the squad. I think there was, I want to say it's a video of her playing pool with Vivian Asai, but I might be wrong. I vaguely remember that happening, but yeah, she's definitely someone who's been in and around the first team, especially throughout pre-season. I think if she's someone who's impressed throughout that period, Rayanne Skinner's the kind of manager who's going to give her an opportunity. So yeah, I think she's someone who could have a huge impact for West Ham this season.
Yeah, and I mean, even if she doesn't get minutes, she can be involved in Phil Morgan's TikTok videos.
Well, exactly.
So that is good. That's positive.
That's all that anyone at West Ham wants this season, is more TikToks. But that is going to be interesting to see how they get on. But that is our full list of one young player at every WSL club you should watch out for this season. I hope you have enjoyed. We'll be back with more. This was a video suggested by a subscriber, so this shows if you leave a suggestion in the comments below, we may get round to covering it on the channel. So thanks. I cannot remember who that was off the top of my head now, but thank you very much for your suggestion, and feel free to make yourself known in the comments below. But that is everything from us today. Thank you guys very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.